Om Shanti. Good evening. Welcome to Raj Yoga Essentials, a chance to look at the very essence of Raj Yoga. But first, let's start with a short reflection, hoping that you are seated comfortably, body is well supported, so there's no tension, but still very engaged, alert. And I'm going to keep the eyes open in a natural way. You can experiment with that as well. That just makes it more practical. I start by slowly bringing my focus completely into the present moment, so very aware of my surroundings in this space right now. Not floating into the outer world or into the past or future with my mind, but using my mind to be present here now. And then constantly focusing, withdrawing my attention from my surroundings more and more towards the self, gently concentrating, pulling my attention inwards to that space behind the forehead where thinking is happening and we can think of as our inner world. Our world of thoughts and feelings, memories, experiences. Entering that space inside, crossing the boundary between physical and non-physical. And just using this time to prepare my inner space, my inner world, to consider and experiment with new ideas that perhaps aren't new at all, more long forgotten ideas. Ideas based on an inner knowing, an ancient wisdom that resides inside. But because of being so preoccupied with day-to-day life, there isn't time to give space for that inner knowing. I sit here now to create that space in time and in my mind, to experiment and explore deeper, more sacred ideas, the very foundation of life. Om Shanti. Raj Yoga is sometimes called easy Raj Yoga. So the idea being that it's actually a very, very simple study. We're used to doing very complicated things. We live in a very complicated world now. Even just to set up for this session had several steps to it, whereas in the past, communication was just two people present and they would communicate. But now we feel that we are living, in a progressed situation with all the technology, and yet it's actually just a more complicated situation. So we are a bit addicted to complicated. Raj Yoga is very easy, very simple, and yet it's been remembered as the most challenging form of yoga, which is fascinating to me. It seems like other yogas are a lot more challenging, There's all those Sanskrit words to remember and different positions and postures. So it's very simple, very easy. And yet, why has it been remembered as so difficult? And what we're going to suggest as we explore the simplicity of it is although it's simple, simple things are very challenging for us when we're addicted or deeply attached to other things. Even if the other things are more complicated, because they're more familiar, we tend to stay very attached to them. So the difficulty simply comes in letting go. Otherwise, it's very, very simple. I remember once someone was coming to visit from another part of the city, and we just asked, so which route did you take to get here? And they shared, well, I did this and that, and I'm listening and I'm thinking, wow, that's a really complicated route. And I started to share, there's a very, very simple route that you can take and you can try it to go home. And I started to share and I said, no, I'll just stick to what I know. And so, very complicated. So what is this simple practice of Raj Yoga? So Raj Yoga is a spiritual study for self-transformation, with the understanding that the transformation we're going to undergo is leading to peace and happiness. And that peace and happiness are what every human being seeks. So undergoing a journey of self-transformation that leads to a destination of peace and happiness. Pretty simple. It doesn't rely on anything external, but it will begin to affect the external, but it is independent. It's not physical at all. What it does do is ask us to go inside. It's an inner journey, which is why meditation is one of the tools. It's not the destination. It's just one of the tools that we use, is the capacity to go inside and begin to change the quality of that inner dialogue, the quality of thoughts in the mind. So that's the meditative piece. So very simple. A journey of self-transformation in order to attain peace and happiness. Understanding that that is an inside job. It involves, of course, then personal responsibility. And the reason it's called Raj Yoga is yoga, the journey we're going to take, is going to involve union or connection. And Raj, because the feeling is peace and happiness are a function of self-mastery. So, that popular phrase, don't worry, be happy, sounds wonderful. But if you say it to someone who's worrying, it's quite annoying, actually. This idea that we are creating internally our own. So if we had more self-mastery, if we really could have control over don't worry, be happy, obviously then we could choose happiness. But that requires self-mastery. Very often, if you say to someone, don't worry, be happy, they think, well, I'll stop worrying when XYZ situation is resolved. That's not self-mastery. That's dependent on external things changing. So self-mastery means even if XYZ situation never changes, I'm able to switch from worry to happiness internally. There's a method. So self-mastery is the foundation for peace and happiness. So what are these simple things we're going to do? to develop that self-mastery, to go through that self-transformation, we're going to focus on 3 points. That's it. 3 points. Super, super simple. Think about how many things you had to focus on today. Pretty complicated, but what if your day was collapsed down to no matter what is going on, I just have to focus on 3 things. Pretty simple. However, as mentioned earlier, we're addicted to focusing on anything but those 3 things. So that's what's going to make it challenging. The method itself is simple, but my habit of doing something else is so deep that the simple becomes difficult. The 3 things we want to focus on are really contained in 3 questions. Who am I? That's the first point. The second is, who do I belong to? And the third is, what do I need to do? That's it. Super simple. And the beauty of it is, the answer to those 3 questions is always the same. So I don't even need to figure anything out. It's fantastic. So very quickly exploring what those 3 answers are. The first question, who am I? We have some very conventional, traditional ways of answering that question that usually starts with a name, moves on to other features of, we say, the body, nationality, birthplace, etc. Might move into relatives or the work I do or the things I know or have, possessions. So all these very external, temporary ways of identifying myself, and I include the body in that, the physical name. The body is temporary too. So this is called body consciousness, or a very physical way of defining myself, a very physical identity. And there's a deep connection between identity and sense of self-value. So whatever I identify myself with, that is what I place my value in, my sense of self-value. So deep connection. The question, who am I, also is connected to what is my value. So if I'm not thinking I am these temporary things, which is a very, very shaky way of defining the self, because we said it's the same answer every time, and that's going to keep changing. I mean, 10 years ago, it might have been, I am the daughter of so-and-so, and 10 years later, I am the mother of so-and-so. It just keeps changing. So, and it also means that my sense of value is in these things that keep changing. That's actually the source of our sorrow, is attaching my identity to things that are not me, things outside of myself. So then who am I? Well, of course, the obvious answer is me. I am me. But who is this me if it's not the body or the relations or the work, all these things that are not me? When I take all those away, what's left? Just me, the thinker, the living being, the one experiencing. And the term we use is I am a soul. The term human spirit is very, very popular. But what we're going to suggest, because when we talk about soul or spirit, it sounds a little bit outside of ourselves. So this idea that it's not that I have a soul, but that I am a soul. A very simple way to think about this and what that feels like is I want you to take a moment now to reflect on the single, just one quality, or you can use the word virtue or value, all the same. What one quality really, really touches your heart, feels very important to you? It's a question of integrity, that you really feel this value. I really need to have this in my life. I need to be expressing this value. Just think about what that single quality might be. And if you're asking what is a quality, it's things like love or peace or truth. So identifying just one, even though we have many, just one, the king for you, the one that's most important to you. And from that, all the other qualities seem to be born from that one quality. If you have that one, many others follow. Once you've identified that quality, that's basically who you are. When we say we're not physical, we're not quantity, we're saying, I am a soul, I am quality. I am a being of quality. I'm not physical. You can't see me under a microscope or through the physical eyes, but I exist and you can feel my presence radiating qualities. So that one quality that's really important, it's almost as if I'm changing from a physical name to a bit of a spiritual name. That quality is my new name. So if the quality was love, then that's my spiritual name, if you will, a very different way of thinking about the self. I am love. It's got nothing to do with the body, nothing to do with the physical, nothing to do with relationships or work, or nothing to do with anything out there. It's completely internal. It's me. So going deeply into the experience of being a soul, I'm going to feel qualities. That's how I will experience myself. When I think of myself as the body, I think quantity, I feel matter, right? Bones and skin and muscles. But when I think of myself as a soul, I feel qualities, peace, love, light. This is what it feels like to really be connected, this yoga connected to a sense of myself. And I am eternal. The body is not, and all those other things, the relationships, the possessions, they're all temporary, they will go. But I am eternal. That beautiful quality. Now, sometimes we say, I don't, even though that quality is important to me, there's times when I'm not expressing it. Sometimes I'm acting the exact opposite way. So if it was love, sometimes I'm not very loving. And that's simply because we forget ourselves and think we're the body and the roles and relationships. And that really distorts how we function when we misidentify ourselves, as it would for anyone. If I have a saw and it's meant to saw, but I keep looking at it as a hand blender, I don't think it's going to do very well as a hand blender. So when we misidentify ourselves, we lose access to our qualities. So this is who I am. And the way we visualize it so that we can get a handle on the sense of self. I say I'm a tiny, tiny, like invisible, like there's a pinpoint, the point of a pin. I am tinier than that, invisible. A point is non-dimensional. I am a point of spiritual, conscient light, living spiritual energy. Just a tiny, subtle point radiating, packed with these qualities, and I am eternal. So it's a very delicate experience of the self, very peaceful, very still, like the eye of a storm, very, very subtle. Quite a contrast to thinking I'm the body. So lots and lots of time. This is really where meditation comes in, is really thinking about the self, considering the self to be a soul. And not only does it create a sense of peace, but the self-mastery starts to come back. I'm not controlled as much by all of those other things, the roles and relationships and possessions, because I'm no longer identifying with them or investing my sense of self-value in them. So I'm becoming free. I don't have to step away from them, but my relationship to them is changing. My dependence on them is reducing. The second point, who do I belong to? When I think I am the physical body, I start to connect to physical things, the physical world. It actually makes us very heavy, makes us mortal, and it really strips away our peace. We lose the power of that integrity to uphold that quality that we identified as very important to us. So I want you to bring into your mind again that quality that you identified as very, very important to you. Super important, because it's going to be very significant when we talk about who I belong to. That quality is like an umbilical cord. It's a very important connection between me and the one I truly belong to. When I think I am the physical body, I believe I have physical parents, etc. But those physical parents are really the parents of the physical body, not me. So who do I belong to? It's not going to be anything physical. It's going to be something non-physical or someone non-physical. And so through many, many centuries, we've had this term, child of God or God the Father. We say it, but I don't know if it's our practical experience as real as me thinking I am the child of a physical being. So again, going into that experience, I am this delicate, subtle being, this point of light. The sense that actually this physical realm isn't really home to me. It's a place where I can express myself through the body, but and many actually report they feel a little bit like an alien here, or things feel a little surreal sometimes, a bit of an existential crisis, feeling a little disconnected from day-to-day life. What is the point? And it's because we've lost the point. And no, we don't really, this isn't really our anchor. It's a wonderful field, arena of expression, but it's not ever going to give that deep, deep sense of belonging, of anchor that we seek. That's outside of physicality. And outside of physicality is where God or truth resides. So this idea of a state, a realm of silence, where there's no physicality, nothing temporal going on, just this beautiful peace. That's where God resides. And for centuries, when we wanted to have an experience of the truth or just make a decision, we would often go into silence. So we'd have some clarity. Truth resides in silence. So God, or the Supreme Soul, the Father of Souls, is a soul as well. When we say we are created in the image of God, it's not that God is a physical being, but that we are souls. So God is also a soul, a tiny, tiny, subtle point of living spiritual light that is found. We can be with that being, experience the presence of that being in silence, beyond worldly thoughts. That quality that you identified as super important to you, the only way really I can get back that quality is through God. It's as if it's my own personal connection to that being. We use the term inheritance, but as a child of that one, this is almost my genetic connection to God. He has that quality, and as the child of that one, I also have that quality. So it creates a very personal, intimate connection with the Supreme Soul that we share. It's like a physical parent and child. He has blue eyes, I have blue eyes. They have this connection. God, if my quality, for example, was peace, the Supreme Soul is the ocean of peace. It's just the embodiment of peace. And therefore, I feel very close to that being. We share that quality. And when I feel that connection, it really helps me to get my sense of self back. And it also melts away what is not me. These deep habits of identifying to things that are not me, they soften and start to melt away. So very important, this union or yoga with the Supreme Soul, my eternal or spiritual parent, through that quality. And the third question, what do I need to do? We say God is very loving, not judging, loving. We kind of, we say don't kill the messenger. Love means to bring benefit, attainment. And one of the greatest forms of love a parent can express is to make the child self-sufficient, able to stand on their own 2 feet. This idea that we cry out to God, give me this, give me that, make this happen. It's not a very healthy relationship, parent and child. And first off, we're telling God how to do his job. But second off, it's kind of like we make a mess and want God to fix it. We just kind of keep doing that. And so deep love is to help me or teach me how to stop getting myself into trouble, so I don't have to cry out for God. If he does his job really well, we don't ever cry out to him. And that involves knowing about the law of karma. So a deep, deep form of love is to explain the law of karma, to remind me of the law of karma, which my conscience always knows about. And this is, I think, why we thought God judges. He doesn't. It's just explaining this is how things work. Don't kill the messenger. That whatever actions you perform have a consequence. So, whatever situation you find in your life, every single aspect of your current life, you have created through past activity. It's a very loving and empowering thing to become aware of that. So, what do I need to do? I need to start performing actions that create the kind of future I like. Back to that really important quality you identified. it's really important. The future you like, the life you want, is going to be filled with that quality. So I need to get the power and wisdom to be able to start to perform actions based on that quality. And my connection to the Supreme Soul helps me to do that. So that's really the three things we need to remember. Who am I? I am a soul, that quality. Who do I belong to? Supreme Soul, the one to whom I really inherit that quality from. And what do I need to do? I need to learn how to perform actions based on that quality. We call that pure actions. Or we prefer the term integrity. Let's end, unless there's any questions at this point. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box. So let's see if there's any questions. We're just checking. All right. If there are not, and feel free to type, it's okay. We'll just have a little reflection based on those 3 points, those 3 answers. So again, I'm sitting comfortably in a royal way. Eyes can be open in a natural way. And with one simple thought, I remember I am a soul. It's a wonderful discovery about myself. It's like discovering I'm this incredible jewel of life, that I'm not defined by the outer world. I do not die because I'm not this body. I am this exquisite spiritual being. And I am built to express qualities such as peace and love. I am a tiny, tiny, subtle point of living spiritual light. And when I think about myself this way, I automatically begin to feel more calm, more free, less affected or anxious about what's happening in the outer world. My mind can slow down and start to move into a state of deep peace or even silence. A silence that is like the depths of the ocean, very full. The depths of the ocean are not empty, they're very full. It's where treasures are found. It's just far away from the noise on the surface. In the depths of silence, there is a fullness that fills the self. It's a very soothing, healing experience, restorative. A deep slowing down of the self, letting go of the details, and starting to open up to what is more sacred, more eternal. moving into God's world, complete peace. And this is where the memory of my practical connection to God is awakened. I truly am a child of God, the most majestic being who is also a tiny, exquisite, subtle point of peaceful living light. My heart, when it is pure, is very similar to God's heart, holding those qualities very dear. And when I am in that silence, I start to feel a communion with God based on the language of the quality that is most important to me. Very personal connection through the language of that quality. And in response, I feel God supporting me in expressing that quality in my day-to-day life, if only to make my own heart light, the integrity of being myself, feeling God's full support, a true parent, supporting me, empowering me, providing the wisdom to live my life in alignment with who I truly am, that core quality. Om Shanti. So we'll end there. If any questions arise, feel free to send them to us by email and we'll take them up on Tuesday evenings in Interview with Raj Yoga. So a few quick announcements before we leave. The next public drop-in sessions are Saturday. So we have 1 o'clock to 1:45 experience meditation, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock inner fitness, and the topic this Saturday, June 28th, is flexibility. Is that the 28th? Then I have the date wrong because on the poster, the following day, the 29th, we have a special program, special meditation. We usually don't have public meditation on Sunday except the third Sunday of the month. But this Sunday, we will have a special program, 6:30 to 7:30 on this YouTube channel, inspired by the International Day of Yoga that was celebrated the 21st of June. It's called The 8 Postures of the Heart, the greatest love story of all time between the soul and God. So you're warmly invited to join us. An announcement will come out by email as well. Om Shanti.